Welcome to Mitchell Levy Presents, where I dive into the essential elements of clarity and credibility. Hosted by global credibility expert Mitchell Levy, today's episode offers invaluable insights to make you think and act more credibly. Join us as we explore living your values, boosting your credibility, and leading purposefully. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I've actually had lots of fun times over the last month-ish time frame, having finished my dissertation, taking a trip to France, graduating from the PhD program. And I was going to say, one of the most fun times I have with another human is when I talk about leaders living their values. And today we have Heather Bennett with us, which I've known for a while. I'm excited to continue to get to know her. And this is such a great way to get to know her. And I'd want you to get to know her. So, Heather, hi and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Mitchell. Pleasure to be
Oh,
here.
oh, it's great to have you here. So other people know who you are. Who is Heather Bennett?
Well, we'll go through the obvious things first. I'm a partner and managing director with Newport LLC. It's a national C-suite advisory firm that helps middle market business owners grow, de-risk, and successfully exit their businesses. I'm a mom of four. I have four kids I'm very proud of, and a wonderful husband who's wonderfully supportive. I'm an author of the Amazon bestseller Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time, which really helps people find their next step and very good for people, anyone in career transition from graduating all the way up to preparing for retirement or something else. Um, yeah, and outdoor enthusiast. We were just talking before we went live. I love hiking, biking, kayaking, just swimming, getting out there. So um, that's a that's who I am.
Thank you for that. So, why, I guess, first question, why are you doing what you do today? Like, what is it that about your like, you wake up in the morning
Yeah.
I guess if you woke up over the weekend and you were in Bend, Oregon, you do something different. But you wake up in the morning and you've got your work stuff. Why do you do that?
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
important to you?
I firmly believe what I do is a calling. I want people to be doing the work that they love, that they're passionate about. I want business owners to succeed because when business owners succeed, especially small to middle market, it means they're employing the majority of the people in the United States are employed by small to middle market business owners. If we can help more people be passionate and be excited about the work they're doing, and that strengthens communities. And when you give people work that they're proud of and fills their needs, food on their table, roof over their head, clothes on their back, then they have time to give back. Then they're able to give time, talent, treasure back to the communities they live in. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
I hear you, but tell me why that's important to you.
Why is that important to me? Oh,
By the way, I hear you. I
yeah,
agree with you. I like it.
yeah.
And
And okay, why is that important to me? I've seen so many people, and this comes from my business. I've been a advisor and a career coach for about 25 years now, working with executives, working with entrepreneurs, and in that time period, when you get to work with someone who's passionate about what they do and what they love, um, it's just magical. It's not even what they do for their customers or the people that they serve, but it's that continuing, like, outflow of energy and positivity and optimism that makes everything and everyone around them better. So for me, that's what's so important. I feel so grateful for the people who've supported me during my career, especially at major transitions or major changes. And I know that if you can positively impact somebody during that transition, during that time period where they're making a major leap, it's a huge difference. I think that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping students who are in high school or college because, especially the ones now who've gone through COVID, who have had all the jobs ripped out from under them from because of AI and other technology and the economy, and they're struggling right now. And so if we can, do if everybody could do one thing, just give an encouraging, word to someone who's in college or high school right now, because like just that little bit, that may be the one thing that helps them find their next job.
Hmm. Interesting. So, what was that first thing that you recognized? That first time that somebody else helped you? It was either maybe it was expected or it was unexpected. Probably the
Mm.
unexpected one.
Most unexpected. I've had so many interesting career transitions. I'm trying to think which one. Um,
By the way, I say the same thing when I get asked that question. Okay, let me
yeah,
focus on
it's
one.
it's so funny. Um, okay, so one I'll do one that's in the middle. Uh, Not about 4 years ago, or gosh, 5 years ago, one of my former clients, so the CEO of a media company, reached out to me. She had just gotten a new client of her own who she was helping to do PR for, and this woman had created coursework to support women learning how to be better board directors. So it's a board governance certification. And so my client said, "Could you take her online class that she just created? I know you sit on boards and you know businesses in and out. Take it and see and give me some feedback, like on the down low." So I did that, and you have to take tests and exams during it. And so the director calls me up on the phone and says, "Hi, you scored really good at this board director thing. I think you should probably be doing this for a living." And I said, "Well, that's very interesting. I'm a business advisor and I do sit on boards." And she's like, "Great. I want you to take my class, the full, big, giant, expensive one." And so I said, okay, not now." And a year later, I ended up taking it. Um, that opened up so many doors for me in terms of helping me understand where my strengths are, but also showing me a path forward. I'd always wanted to I'd sat on a number of nonprofit boards, but I'd wanted to sit on advisory and paid boards. But I didn't see that happening for many, many, many years. After the experience, I was like, okay. So I joined the Private Directors Association and actually got recruited to my firm out of that. So that's, I mean, you're talking about like a pivotal moment. Simply having one of my former clients say, "Could you just do this one favor for me?" turned into a really dramatic shifting. And I think it's having those people who believe in you and see and trust you and,
Mm,
know that you're going to show up for them and being open to that. That's sometimes a moment that unexpectedly helps you. So,
that's interesting. Okay, so that was a path.
mhm.
Why I'm gonna switch topics. So we'll go somewhere else. So so you're a mom of 4.
Yes.
What's that like?
That's wonderful. My kids are all very unique, um, very hardworking, um, lots of empathy. They're awesome. They're just great. I feel so lucky to have all 4 of them, and they teach me things all the time and keep me looking for new opportunities, and it's a lot of fun. It's a party. I always say that if you invite our family over, I mean, that's 6 people, and it's an instant party. So,
That's a serious party. So
yeah.
what give me an example of something that one of your kids taught you that you then applied in your business life?
Oh gosh. There's a lot. Let's see. So my youngest, Raquel, is deaf and hard of hearing. She wears cochlear implants, and she has no problem saying what's on her mind. She's
Mm,
very, very straightforward and very open and honest, and at the same time, not judgmental at all of anyone. She's so inclusive and willing to meet new people and make them feel welcome, and she does. It's amazing. So she teaches me to not ever judge a book by its cover. So when I meet somebody, I always want to get to know them better before I make any judgment calls.
Hmm. Wow. That was like a heartstring pull, too. That's interesting. Did you prior to that, were there times where you judged a book by its cover?
I think we all do that. I mean, what is it? Judgments, our attention span is less than 7 seconds. We make judgments in the first, 2.5 to 5 seconds when we meet someone. Uh, I think that's just natural. That's how we do it. I think the key is to have self-awareness of that. And even if you do make a judgment, to kind of hold your tongue and wait to see what else you get, what other information you get. So I think that's just human nature.
I think so too. So when we have one kid, and at one point in time, I read that if you have one child, they most of their learning comes from your the parents, right? But once you get two, then that number shrinks to like 40% because they learn a lot um, from their sibling. I assume at four, the number is a whole lot less. What have you learned in terms of that sort of group family interaction and learning and growth, both positive and negative?
I always say when I talk to parents who have kids who are younger, you only really have until they're 14 to influence them. If you haven't established your beliefs and values before then, it's not going to happen because that's when traditionally um, kids start focusing more on their peers in terms of their influence versus their family. Um, so that's something I was very cognizant of, raising the kids is being there. I would say the most important thing when it comes to being a parent is just being present. Just show up. I because you don't know, to your point, when you get that moment where they are going to listen. And if it's 40% or less, that means you don't get a lot of time to try to give them some positive, feedback to make them stronger, give them good advice. You get very little time. And so I think the best way to handle that is to just show up, be present, listen, watch.
Was there a scenario, now I'm digging really deep, where one of your kids learned from another one something that was unexpected, positive?
Okay, so there's so many things. So my middle two are runners.
Oh.
They're cross country runners, and the second oldest is, they're both state level runners when they were in high school. And I know, having watched the two of them, even though they're 2 years apart, the younger one, the third child, totally looked up to him, and it was it's been beautiful to see them, like, during their middle school years as cross country runners, track runners, and in high school to see, her look up to him, and I'd
Mm.
say vice versa. I think he gets inspired by her as well, but, like, that particular instance, we have just so many pictures of the 2 of them together, like cross country uniform races. It's just, more recently they did a half marathon together, and it's really cool to see the relationship and how they inspire and teach each other because sports are complicated and there's a lot of ways and aspects to be better and to do better. And I know because they've had each other, they've both done better and enjoyed the sport more.
Mm. Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, so it's interesting to me as I'm thinking about what you said and the pride that you have as mom in talking about your kids. Why do you think many uh, CEOs and execs don't have that same level of pride for their employee base?
Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. Do we have like another 8 hours? I mean, that's a big one. Um, where to start with that one? Okay. So here's the thing with when it comes to the relationships between a CEO and the leadership team, I'd say I'd expand that to the leadership team and the people, the employees. Um, there's a real difference between the CEO and the leaders who think about those employees working for them as opposed to working with them. So that's one area. You and I have talked about, the importance of servant leadership and, the few every once in a while I get the opportunity to be an interim or a fractional leader for one of my clients. And one of the ones I did a couple years ago, the employees could not understand that as a leader, my job was to make their job easier because they hadn't had that type of leadership before. And they didn't, and I said, "No, I'm here to take roadblocks out of your way, to give you the resources you need to, help change your job description if that's what we need to do." And they just couldn't understand it. And I think that's probably a good place to start. You should be proud of the people who you work with. You should be proud of your employees. Um, they say like hire slow, fire fast. There's a reason for that. You wanna pick the people that are going to, really add to the culture and really make, make work enjoyable and successful and provide an environment that they will thrive in.
Mm. Man, you and I are so much on the same line. And surprisingly, that pride of ownership, the way you speak, about your kids, and your husband should be similarly
Mhm.
the way any leadership team should be speaking about their organization. But for
Oh,
s yeah,
it's
we
yeah,
don't.
and when you can do that, it's amazing. I love the teams that I lead now, they're phenomenal. I'm so happy, I love seeing them develop. I it's great because we're doing great things together, so why not help them advance themselves?
Now how'd you make that happen? What did you do?
Mm. Listen, a lot. I don't think I did anything for, like, besides listen and ask questions for, like, the first month. Normally when I start a new role, you have to understand where they're coming from and, do the research, get to know the industry, get to know the people both inside and outside the organization, just and take time doing that, be intentional, talk to everyone. Don't just talk to the leadership team. Don't just talk to your team. Talk cross functionally. Talk to the vendors. Talk to everybody, and not just talk to, but like listen to everyone, because otherwise, you get so much great information when you let people tell you about themselves and their work and what they like and what they don't like, and once you start learning that, then it's easy. It's easy for me to see the opportunities, and it's easy
Mm.
for me to see, um, they may not even know that a couple of the people I've worked with, I've actually advanced to leadership roles, and they did not think they were ready or capable or wanted to even be leaders, and it's being able to see in them what they don't see in themselves, and then, maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, they're like, "Wow, thank you for doing that," because they didn't know.
It's amazing that let's just explore this concept of listening for a second. I'm tracking 100%. Love what you're saying and how you're saying it. Most people don't know how to listen. What they know how to do maybe is ask a question. But then as the response is coming back, they're thinking about what's the next question, as
Mhm.
opposed to truly listening and absorbing. And by the way, if I was gonna ask myself this question, I'd have to make up the answer too, because I just do it. I don't actually think about it, but since I'm asking, how do you do that? How would you teach other people how to listen. Because what I want you to think about is think about that example of the person who you have uh, who's been part of an organization that they're really good at what they do, and they continually wanting to seek validation by speaking more than other people. And so
Mm.
how do you h- what would be advice, or how do you address that sort of situation? Because it is important to care about others. I mean, what you're talking about is listen with the intent and commitment to do the right thing, to actually understand the true makeup of what makes somebody who they are, and then help them excel at that. I mean, that's what you're saying.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
how do you teach that skill set, or empower
Mm.
that skill set to others?
Okay, so 2 things you have to continually tell yourself in your brain, "Stop," like, thinking, and just listen. Um, and then in terms of teaching other people, this is really where leaderships need to model the right behavior. And, there is nothing I love more than a good meeting leader. If you can lead a meeting well, part of that is making sure every voice is heard and making sure there's a differentiated, um, thought presented. And the only way you can do that is by making sure everyone gets their time to talk and gets their time to share. And that is, that's a gift when you find someone who can really moderate and guide a meeting to make sure that every thought and every perspective is considered. Um, and that it's that takes practice. But it also I leaders can do that by modeling it. You're leading a team meeting for your leadership team, model how to do that. And then hopefully they will carry it down.
So what about the leader that is in the position today but doesn't model that because that's not who they
Yeah. Well, that's always an interesting one. Um, it's being able, we always talk about mindset, and there's some people who just have a change mindset, and some people who don't, and or don't at this moment. I'm always open to the idea that people could change, and open, like you've got to believe that even if somebody is uncoachable right now, they'll be coachable later, and that's a shift. Um, so again, it's figuring out who's got their ear. So oftentimes in an organization, there'll be someone who they'll listen to. And if you can figure out who that person is, maybe you can get them, maybe, to consider other options. So maybe that's their executive coach. Maybe it's it's the CEO, maybe it's the CFO. If it's the board, it's, talking to the board chair. So figuring out who that leader respects enough to listen to. And that can be the best way if it's not you, if you're not in a position to be that person.
so I would say that's probably like a decade or 2 of experience summarized into a simple playbook.
Oh, yeah. Maybe more.
Yeah, we often find ourselves, this is interesting. So this goes back to the same question on, who models and who models behavior and teaches your children, who models behavior and teaches your staff. And the answer is sometimes the best way for somebody to listen is not from you, but through somebody else.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
how does the ego deal with that?
Their ego? I don't know. I mean, like I said, you have to catch them when they're in an open mind frame. Timing is everything. I'm a marketer at heart, and it's always about giving the right message at the right time to the right person in the way that they're open to receiving it.
Mm.
So if you think about all of those aspects of communication, whether you're creating an advertisement on TikTok or Instagram, or whether you're trying to convince a CEO that they need to be more open to what's going on with their employees, or more aware of what the culture is in the organization that they don't necessarily that they're not aware of, then it's figuring out the right timing for that message and how to deliver in a way that they'll be open to receiving it.
Yeah. What? One more question before I learn a little bit more about how people reach out to you and what question I didn't ask is the from what I understand, so many owners when they get to the stage where they actually it's time and they exit their business.
Yeah.
So many of them, no matter how much money they received, it either wasn't enough or they feel unsatisfied. And even if it's life-changing money, there's still something. How do you address what how do you address that? Or what's the right or maybe a different question, what is the most important thing almost from day 1 when you start interacting with a client that you're prepping them for so that when you're done, that scenario doesn't happen?
And that's the key. Exactly what you just said is you have to be prepared for it. What's interesting is most business owners will only have one exit in their lifetime, if they're lucky. If they're lucky, because just getting to that is quite impressive. Um, Given that this is not an experience they've had before, this is completely unusual. They don't have an idea of what it's going to look like at the other end. And I just talked to a successfully exited founder this morning, and that was what she said. She said that is the thing she did not prepare enough for. And really, doing having an exit, there are so many people involved. The due diligence process alone is a full-time job. Just warning anybody thinking about it, it is a full-time job. Get ready. However, if you really assemble a great team around you, and that includes your investment banker and your attorneys and your wealth managers and your advisors, people like me who have worked to help you get, your board of directors, people have helped you get that company ready for exit to even consider it. Um, that helps. That's a good place to start. You need to have those people around you. Um, but you do have to think about what's going to come next and how that's going to impact you and your family and your friends and your career aspirations going forward. It's often I that is so that's such a good observation that you brought up. It is very often overlooked. Uh, Even retirement. I mean, even if you're not exiting, but you're retiring, people don't plan before they retire to even think about what they're going to do afterward. Um,
Hmm. So listen, if you're listening or you're watching and you're intrigued enough, you want to have a conversation or learn more about Heather Bennett. Heather, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I know you said to say one, but I'm going to give you two.
As
So,
many as appropriate for you.
of course, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am on there way too many times a day. I live on LinkedIn. But the other place to reach me would be newportllc.com. You can certainly learn more about me and my partners there. But I also have a podcast for our firm, which is called the Growth Plus Exit Podcast, which is a great way to, especially if you're a business owner. All I'm interviewing are business owners who've grown and exited their businesses. So it's a great place to learn more if you're in that position.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So last question. Um, Given this conversation, what we talked about, and I did mention I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about till we started talking. Is there a question that you would have liked me to ask, or a question that you just think at this stage you've got to ask yourself so you can answer it?
Wow, that's a good one. We've talked about so many different things. I would say this would go back to business owners and entrepreneurs. One of the first steps, I mean, there's like 100 questions, it's 100 things I could say right now, but the one I'm trying to think of something at the very beginning is make sure you find the time and work on figuring out if your product or service has a market and what that market is. That is in my 25 years, that is one of the biggest mistakes that business owners and founders and entrepreneurs can make is not understanding who their target market is and thinking that they are all things to all people, which they are not. and they will increase their ability to succeed and last through that first year, second year, fifth year, much, much more if they can figure out who their target market is and who they're serving.
Mm, that is really good advice. I'm going to say thank you. It was amazing. It's always interesting when you talk to somebody, I have expectations ahead of time and you exceeded my expectations. So thank you so much for joining us today, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me, Mitchell. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. Now, for you watching or listening, this is your time to pick up that aha moment that you got out of it, that feeling, that word, that phrase that you're going to take with you and spread Heather's cred dust. Share it on social media, whatever platform's most appropriate for you. And she'd appreciate that. Feel free to tag her, feel free to tag me. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming, listening, and participating. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll see you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care now. Bye. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in today's episode. Like, subscribe, and share your aha moments on your preferred platform. Remember, credibility starts with clarity and living your values. Learn more at mitchelllevy.com. Until next time.